If you like to talk about combat sports and you want to join the discussion, click the subscribe button below and the bell notification icon next to it and join Knucklehead Nation. What's going on, Knuckleheads? Thank you so much for joining the FightersRep podcast. I apologize for a little bit of technical difficulties we had earlier. Today, we're going to be talking about whether did Al Haymon just fire Manny Robles for making Andy Ruiz the first ever Mexican heavyweight champion in the history of boxing? I mean, is that what just happened either today or yesterday? I mean, it's just absolutely, positively crazy. I really need to know what you guys think about this. I can't be alone on this, and I can't be alone in thinking that this may be one of the most unfounded, ridiculous, misplaced, just all around poor strategies that I've ever seen, and the worst example of damage control that I believe I may have ever seen in the history of combat sports. And the fact that we're in this internet social media age, my goodness, I mean, it just really amplifies the mistakes and the disgraces and the ridiculousness of, the situation. I mean, I'm just, I try to come on here and be an objective guy, and, but sometimes I just can't, sometimes I just can't. Me being objective is to tell you guys, hey, Andy Ruiz and Manny Robles are no longer working together. And apparently it was Al Haymon's decision that Andy Ruiz and Manny Robles are no longer working together. But to just say that and rest on that would completely deny all of you of the ridiculousness and how pathetic it is for this to actually have happened. I mean, here's a guy in Manny Robles who is, let's face it, a potential, if not guaranteed, future Hall of Fame boxing trainer, right? I mean, how many trainers, really? I mean, for me, he's a shoo-in for Hall of Fame, but, maybe some people have an argument against it, so that's why I say potentially, but, I mean, for me, the guy's a shoo-in. How do you, how do you come off either as a fighter in Andy Ruiz or as a promoter in Al Haymon and decide and make the decision that Manny Robles is the problem and Manny Robles is not a good fit? Because let's make no mistakes about it. By firing Manny Robles or by deciding not to continue working with him, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it, you're essentially putting the blame of the entirety of the situation, of the rematch at least, on the shoulders of a guy in Manny Robles who lives and dies at the gym and is constantly working with some of the best fighters in the world of boxing. So everything was hunky-dory when the fighter listened enough to Manny Robles to actually show up to the gym and do some work. And because of said work and said guidance by Manny Robles, let's make no mistake about it, because of the guidance from Manny Robles, said fighter becomes world heavyweight champion, unifying 3 of the 4 major titles. And so because of that, you become the first ever Mexican heavyweight unifying 3 of the 4 major alphabet titles. Yeah. And then your guy decides in the rematch that he's just not going to show up to the gym anymore, that he's going to, spend his money, that he's going to party and hang out and get invited everywhere and have fun and eat pizza in his dank city, whatever, 24 hours in the life of Andy Ruiz, where they're following him around, he's eating pizza. And then you're going to turn around and fire Manny Robles. Was it Manny Robles' fault that you showed up 15 pounds overweight for the rematch? Was it Manny Robles' fault after the fight when you were apologizing to Manny Robles for not listening to him? Was it Manny Robles' fault that you decided that eating and hanging out and buying a G-Wagon was more important than realizing and being aware that you had 3 of these major titles, and that working hard and keeping these titles could result in a legacy that could result in generational wealth for you and your family? Was it Manny Robles' fault that prevented you from seeing that? I mean, it's absolute madness. And we have somebody in the chat right now, Sean Newton Boxing. Thank you so much for joining the chat. Please subscribe if you haven't already. He's saying, I don't think that they feel he's the problem. But something had to change. Well, something had to change. Okay, well let's go back in the history then of Andy Ruiz and see what it is that has to change. He worked with Freddie Roach. It didn't work out, right? Because he's not with Freddie Roach anymore. He worked with Abel Sanchez. It didn't work out because he's not with Abel Sanchez anymore. He worked with Manny Robles and became the first ever Mexican heavyweight champion of the world. And now he split from there as well. I mean, so what is it about the external, outside of Andy Ruiz, this material world that we live in? What is it about this material world that we live in that has to change? Or is it that? Or is it something, or is there something that has to change internally? Internally for Andy Ruiz? Does he have to go see a sports psychologist? Does he have to hire a psychiatrist or a therapist? Is changing the trainer the proper thing to do? Because let's make no mistake, after all of this drama, by replacing Manny Robles, by making the change in replacing Manny Robles, the only ostensible change you're making is changing Manny Robles. Is that going to correct the issue? Is that the issue? Manny Robles is in the gym. Manny Robles is in the gym. It's not up to him. I mean, can he tie Andy Ruiz with a leash or with a collar and drag him into the gym? Can Abel Sanchez do that? Will Freddie Roach do that? For the people that are saying that Andy Ruiz needs a coach that doesn't take shit. So, if you're the coach that doesn't take shit, for example, and he calls you and tells you, I'm not coming to the gym today, fine. Get the fuck out. You're not serious. That's the end of that relationship. So is this external change of a trainer going to amount to any sort of difference in Andy Ruiz. My feeling, my sentiment is it will absolutely make zero difference in the mentality of Andy Ruiz, whether you give him John David Jackson or whether you give him Manny Robles or whether you give him Bernie Hopalian or whether you give him Freddie Roach or whoever you give him, Adam Booth, whoever you give this guy, Shane McGuigan, whoever you give this guy, he's going to be the same guy. And he's going to have to rely, unless he makes a serious internal change, he makes a serious decision like Coach Chad George says, you got to make a decision. If this guy doesn't make a decision within himself to become serious about his sport, he will not rise to the top. He will come close or he will score the potential knockout win in order to perhaps win another title based entirely on talent as opposed to work ethic. That's the way I feel about it. If he does win another title, it is amazingly, but also sadly, based upon the fact that he's just uber talented, because it's not his work ethic that's taken him to this level. It's his God-given speed, durability, power. That's what it is. And it's the fact that he's been doing this his entire life. And damn it, when you've been doing it since you're a kid, something's got to stick. Could you imagine this guy being dedicated to the sport, listening to Coach Manny Robles, doing what Coach Manny Robles told him to do for just for the remainder of his career? I mean, I'm not even asking to do it for the rest of his life. I'm not even asking for him to do it for the rest of his life. Let's take a look here. Andy Ruiz Jr. is 30 years old. The heavyweight division. In the heavyweight division, typically, you've probably got into your 40s, right? Heavyweights last longer because, power is kind of more important than maybe speed is in the lower divisions. And these guys last a long time, like, Klitschko, Deontay Waters now in his late 30s, I believe, or mid 30s. So, the heavyweights last a bit longer. So, at most, I'm asking Andy Ruiz to dedicate himself to the sport for the next 10 years and create a legacy for himself and Mexican Americans and the Mexican American people and boxing fans and his family, more important than anything. Create a legacy and generational wealth and work and happiness for your family, my man. You had it all and you just let it slip out of your hands. I mean, you guys have to understand that this sort of aloof, spacey behavior where you've got all of it, you've got everything, you've got the world in your hand, and you decide to just sit back and do nothing and put no effort into, maintaining this miraculous reward that the world gave you in freaking 3 heavyweight titles. For you to sit back and just rest on your laurels and allow that to just go. I mean, there's really something going on there. To the point where I don't think I'm going to have to disagree strongly with Al Haymon's decision to terminate the relationship with Manny Robles. And I find it to be another slap in the face to Manny Robles and another huge disrespect to Manny Robles. And what it is, if you ask me, is damage control, but poorly thought out, just flimsily disguised, gross damage control. from a businessman that just has to do something about this. And, I got all the respect in the world for Al Haymon, but I don't have any respect for this sort of ridiculous decision. So, the chat's going off. Let me see what's going on in here. Muay Thai 23, thank you so much for your comment. Sean Newton Boxing, we already heard from you. Jamaican, what up, my brother? He says, Al Haymon is an advisor, not a manager. He doesn't get involved in manager-fighter dispute. Andy Ruiz is just ungrateful and greedy. And with the ungrateful part, I got to agree with that, because I would imagine, just like it's up to a fighter to decide whether he wants to fight the guy most of the time, whether he wants to fight that guy or this guy, I think it's also definitely up to the fighter which coach he wants to work with, which coach he feels comfortable in working with. And so I do strongly believe that this is a move from somebody who's so ungrateful that it's disturbing to watch. And I have no vendetta against Andy Ruiz. Several times on this channel and in my, comment section of my interviews, I've said, I hope he bounces back. I hope he gets back in the gym with Manny and just puts his nose to the grindstone and gets it done. But my goodness, instead of putting his nose to the grindstone, knuckleheads, I believe this man has just put his nose to the tombstone. I mean, this is the third or fourth Hall of Fame coach he's kicked to the curb, and at what point does enough become enough? Knuckleheads, before I continue with reading your comments in the chat, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon. FightersRep 9. We've got 16 fights on tap. Hopefully they all go through. Get your tickets at FightersRep.com, where California's only kickboxing pro promotion. If you can't make it to Southern California, I hope you can come out and support. But if you can't, you can watch it right here live on YouTube. We air our fights on YouTube. All we ask for is you donate to the channel, show some love to help me keep this thing free and help me keep it growing. Let's see here. Ronsta, what up, my brother? Thank you for joining. He says, Robles was too honest in his interviews and may have offended Ruiz's human nature. Truth hurts, especially when you just made life-changing money, but sometimes that truth can help you look into yourself and be, introspective and make some changes in your life that allow you to be successful. And it looks like what you're saying, Ronsta, is true. That's actually what happened. As opposed to him taking the constructive criticism from a Hall of Fame or a shoo-in Hall of Fame trainer, he turns around, gets butthurt with it. Another childish move. My goodness, it's just childish conduct upon childish conduct with this poor fighter. And decides to sever ties with the guy who made him a rich man and a world champion in Manny Robles. Wow. I'm just absolutely taken aback. Ginger Giant says, when PBC started, I was on the Haymon bandwagon, but shit deteriorated fast. And over the last few years, Eddie Hearn is making people look stupid and exposing these frauds. I would agree with the fact that Eddie Hearn is doing it best. That's just my opinion. Everybody has their opinion. I think Al Haymon's doing a great job as well. But it's a different culture out there. I do think Eddie Hearn has the advantage of the culture out in the UK and how much they love boxing, and in Europe and the rest of the region there. And perhaps that puts Al Haymon at a disadvantage. But a move like this, is just something that I can't get on board with. I think integrity is important. Integrity is what keeps the sport together in the long run. A lot of people make these short-term decisions that they think are going to benefit them in the short term while compromising the long term. And I think this decision hurts the credibility of Andy Ruiz, of Al Haymon, of everybody involved. Other than Manny Robles, I think you will see a backlash against Andy Ruiz, and you'll see people siding with Manny Robles. At least that's what I'm noticing all over the internet. And again, I wish Andy Ruiz the best, but I think this was a huge mistake that sort of piled on to the ridiculousness of what happened during, before, and after that rematch. Let's see here. Sean Newton Boxing says, ha ha ha, can't fire Andy Ruiz. Okay, Suleiman says, Andy Ruiz needs to fire Chick-fil-A workers to help him lose weight. Suleiman, you are a savage, my brother. Thank you for joining the chat again. Jamaican says, Andy Ruiz reminds me of a few people I know. Big and worthless. What are you trying to say, Jamaican? No, I'm just kidding, my man. I know you don't mean me. My head's really big, and I'm pretty big, but I wouldn't say I'm worthless. But, yeah, man, just very, very sad. Very, very sad. Sean Newton Boxing, Teddy Atlas being mentioned for 2 out of 3 fights that might work. Maybe. Could you imagine Teddy Atlas being told by Andy Ruiz, I don't want to go to the gym a few times in a row? I mean, I could see Teddy Atlas trying to fight Andy Ruiz in the gym for doing something like that to him. Muay Thai 23 says McGregor stops Canelo in the first round. You know, Muay Thai 23, come back, my brother. You're in another fucking orbit, bro. Come back to earth with us, my man. Ginger Giant says Andy Ruiz ranks as the 4th worst heavyweight champion in history. White smashes him to pieces every day of the week, and twice on a Sunday he had 1 fluke victory, but he's not an elite fighter. The sad thing is, Ginger Giant, he's got elite talent, and he could be. I really believe he could be, but I don't think he has the mentality. I think, looking back on it now, I didn't know his mentality before this move and before the rematch. Looking back on it now in hindsight, I agree with you that was a fluke win, and it took me until I spoke to Manny Robles and until I saw the results of that rematch and how he ballooned up between the 2 fights. And until I got the news today, you know, putting it all together now in hindsight, it was a fluke victory. I really believe it was a fluke victory. He doesn't have fluke talent, but he does have fluke work ethic. And Dillian White smashes his face in, like you said, every day of the week, twice on Sunday. But Dillian White is a problem that a lot of people don't want to solve. He's a problem that a lot of people don't want to address. I got mad love for Dillian White. I want to see him in there with the best, and I hope it happens. Ronsta says, Umayyad Thai 23, what you smoking, bro? That's funny. That came out Umayyad, like the dynasty. That's pretty funny. Suleiman says, Andy Ruiz should be looking to hire Jenny Craig as his new trainer. Oh, my God. Muay Thai 23 says, I'm smoking McGregor smokes Canelo in the first round Kush. Well, you enjoy partaking in your recreational activities there, Muay Thai. Ronsta says, have another joint. Muay Thai 23 says, bro, that's the biggest ball of mozzarella I've ever seen. And perhaps he's talking about Andy Ruiz's decision to fire Manny Robles. Guys, I just can't get over it, man. I just can't wrap my head around it. I mean, I've sort of, I've befriended Manny Ruiz. It was his interviews that I did with him on this channel that I think, I hate to, exaggerate, yeah, but I don't think I am. I mean, it got over 100,000 views. We've been cited to on the channel because of the interview I did with him several times by several other news outlets, some without even giving us credit. No comment on that. But, it really, I think this channel and talking to him, and, I've befriended him. And so, I feel horrible for the guy. Integrity means so much to me. Being real, being cool, with people, not doing things to intentionally hurt anybody. It's important. It's important to be real with people and be good to people. And for me to see this happen to Manny Robles, a guy who's always in there working, it's sad to see, you guys. Suleiman says, makes me sad just remembering how happy Manny Robles was when Andy won those belts. I mean, yeah, you see it all over his face, man, and you could see the disappointment in him after that rematch, and I really think he put his disappointment into words in a very classy way. Even with the interview I did with him where he was very upfront, I just think he just came off as super classy, honest, and what more can you want? I mean, you can't be a coach and be lying and sugarcoating stuff. He kept it honest. He kept it classy, and there's just nothing you can say about it beyond that. I mean, there's just nothing. I wouldn't expect anything else from my coach. That's exactly what I would want from a coach. Just be real with me. If you think, I don't have the work ethic that I need to be a champion, let me know. And that's what he was doing in that interview. That's what he was doing. He was expressing his disappointment while at the same time, throwing it out there in a way perhaps to hopefully reel Andy Ruiz back in. And instead, that fishing line that he was trying to reel in just snapped, baby. And it was really sad to watch it. If he could dedicate himself, this is Ginger Giant, for 10 hours, it would be a fucking miracle. 10 years, LOL. Suleiman says, Andy is a disloyal bitch who pretended to take full credit for the loss, but instead is making it seem like a new trainer change is what he needed. Wow. So do you guys think a lot of people are putting this on Al Haymon? Al Haymon may just be, being scapegoated here. But do you guys think that it was Al Haymon that made this decision for damage control for his fighter? Or is this a decision that Andy Ruiz made? What do you guys think about that? I'd love to hear your opinions on that one. If you're watching on the replay, let me know what you think. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Do everything that the great Knucklehead Nation does. Much love to you guys. Thank you guys for joining the chat. If you don't know, we do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Today we're a little bit late. Sometimes that happens. Obligations come up, but we do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific. And immediately after the big fights, we go live to talk about the big fights, typically on Saturdays. But tell me what you guys think about this. I mean, whose idea was this to fire one of the best trainers in the world after he made Andy Ruiz the heavyweight champion of the world? Just absolute madness. Suleiman says Chisora puts Ruiz to sleep. That's a guy, I'm glad you bring him up. Yesterday, I was having dinner with Blake Bulletproof Troop. If you guys don't know him, definitely look him up. He's actually going to be fighting for the Lights Out Extreme Fighting Championship, which is like the only pro MMA promotion out here in California. And they're on Fox Sports. He's going to be fighting for their heavyweight title. And he's a badass fighter out of Black House MMA. And Black House, Lyoto Machida and all these guys train there. And he was telling me about Derek Chisora because basically, he's done some cross training with Derek Chisora, some boxing training to tighten up his stand-up. And looks like we might be able to get Derek Chisora on the show at some point, or at least an interview. So that's somebody I'd be excited to talk to and see what he's got going on next. I would love to see Chisora Ruiz. I would love to see Dillian White Ruiz. But something tells me it's going to be a while before we see Andy Ruiz back in the ring. If at all. Suleiman says AJ was concussed and Hearn knew it. It was a fluke. Might be right about that, brother. Suleiman can't wait to see Chisora versus Usyk. Rumors our fight is getting signed up. Oh, yeah, can't wait to see Chisora versus Usyk. Rumors are the fight is getting signed up. That's a very interesting fight. That's a very interesting fight between Chisora and Usyk. I like Usyk in that fight, man. I know Chisora is a beast. Very strong, comes forward, bangs people out, and he does have the chance to walk forward and just absolutely destroy Usyk, who's, as we know, coming up from cruiserweight. But Usyk is not a little guy. He's not that little. And Usyk is very sharp. And Chisora has a problem with boxers. He tends to have a problem with guys that are good boxers. And I do think, I don't know, I always got to go with the skills. For me, skills pay the bills. Like Coach Manny Robles said the last time I spoke to him. Skills pay the bills, brothers. And so in a fight like that, a guy as skilled as Usyk, I just find a hard time picking against him. The only thing he's got going against him is his frame. I won't even say his size because he's probably as tall or taller than Derek Chisora, but it's the frame. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. The frame, the musculature, the bone structure. That might be problematic because he is a natural cruiserweight. But at heavyweight, we're going to have to see how he deals with that kind of power if he runs into old Del Boy. Pound for pound boxing. 5'10", what up, my brother? He says, what's up, bro, at FightersRep? What's up to you, brother? Thank you for joining the chat. Much appreciated. We're talking about the sinvergüenza decision made. And that means, without shame, sinvergüenza. Shameful, without shame. The shameful, decision made by Andy Ruiz's team to fire Manny Robles. And that's what we're on now. And I'm not into it, you guys. I'm reeling, man. I'm reeling I can't believe it happened. Suleiman says, Ronsta, very high risk for Usyk. Chisora ain't got nothing to lose heading into that. It is high risk for Usyk, but man, Usyk has done it all. Usyk has been everywhere, from the Olympics and a million amateur fights. And, he's got a bunch of pro fights and he's undefeated. And he won the World Boxing Super Series and beat some of the toughest guys in the world in that series. That World Boxing Super Series was one of the rare occasions where we had a tournament, especially the cruiserweight one, where we found out who the best cruiserweights in the world are, and Daddy likes it. Daddy likes it a lot. So I love it. I look at Usyk, and I think very highly of the man. He's a beast. He's a beast. So it is a danger for him, but Usyk is a problem. And if you guys don't see that he's a problem, you got to get your eyes checked. By the way, there's almost 20 of you in here. I got 8 likes. Smash that like button. Show some love for the channel. Help us get some engagement. Also, feel free to donate to the channel in the links below or in the super chat and get your FightersRep shirts. We also got hoodies. It's cold in some places. We got tank tops. And the link below, be much appreciated. Anything you guys purchase, it gets reinvested right back into the channel, and I use it to help build the promotion. And FightersRep 9 is coming, man, and it's partially thanks to you guys. You guys are helping me a little bit. It's partially thanks to you guys that I get to create a venue for these amazing, I'm telling you guys, wait till you see these fighters. They're amazing. Some of the best strikers you're ever going to see in your life are going to be competing on February 28th right here on YouTube, live in Southern California if you're here. And you guys are allowing me to build this promotion and this channel. And, it's because of you guys. It's because of your contribution. We're the only kickboxing promotion in the entire state of California and the only one with a pro license. Isn't that a shame with the amount of talent we have in California? AKA is here, which is Habib Nurmagomedov's camp, and Daniel Cormier and Cain Velasquez. Systems Training Center. That's where, Christos Giagos and all these guys in the UFC, train, and Anderson Silva's son is there, and he's going to be fighting for us. Black House MMA, where Anderson Silva trained, and Lyoto Machida has trained. I got a guy from Lyoto Machida's camp on the card as well. Chad George's CMMA. I mean, all this talent, they're all going to be competing on February 28th. A lot of it's thanks to you guys, so thank you guys for the love. Let's hear. I'm not even. Muay Thai 23 says Michael Conlon, pound for pound #1. Ronsta says Usyk is the first and only cruiserweight in history to hold all 5 belts. I think those are the belts that we know of. Who knows how many other of these trinkets are out there that he's wrapped around his waist? NABO and all these other bullshit belts. Who knows how many belts this guy's got? Smash that like button, says my man, Pound for Pound Boxing 510. Listen to him. And don't forget, this is the only in-depth, properly run combat sports channel that talks about boxing that is not going to ban you for your opinion. That's not going to ban you for your opinion against guys, or you're biased for or against guys because of their, what they care about on these other boxing channels, this personal politic bullshit. They act like they're MSNBC or some shit. They're only for their guys of their race or their nationality or whatever. We don't have that disease. This is a channel for everybody. It's fucking 2020, the year of clear vision. I mean, we haven't been talking about that crazy personal politic BS in around me and my people since, I don't know, I grew up in Miami. We didn't even back then even talk all this shit about that kind of stuff. You treat people based on their character. You respect fighters based on their performance. That's what matters. We don't give a shit about all that personal politics stuff. Where you're from, what you look like. That's not my thing. If you like that, there's other channels for that. We're here just as fight fans, and everybody's welcome, and you're never going to be banned. So feel free to come here, join the chat. We always got something to talk about here. Let's see here. Muay Thai 23 says false. Ronsta McGregor is a featherweight and lightweight champion. Ronsta, LOL. Stick to your Muay Thai, bro. Cry no more, bro. Thank you so much, my man, for, being on the chat. Hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it if you haven't already. He says, so Andy Ruiz camp made up a story saying Al Haymon made him change trainer. Al Haymon can't control your trainer or where you train. He just control who you fight. That makes a lot of sense to me as a promoter being involved with a lot of fighters and a lot of coaches. I mean, that's why I said at the beginning of this channel, picking your trainer is even more integral than picking, even more of a thing as a fighter than picking who you're going to fight, right? I mean, they always say, this fighter won't fight that fighter because he's with another promoter. That's bullshit. If the fighters want to make it happen, they're going to make it happen. With a trainer, it's even more personal. It's even more controlled by the fighter. It's whoever the hell you want to train with, you're going to train with. So I don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit weirded out by them kind of scapegoating Al Haymon. Is he the one that made this ridiculous decision? Is Ruiz the one that made this ridiculous decision? Cry more, bro, if you have any sort of, knowledge or underground information that the rest of us don't have. Feel free to divulge, brother. I'd love to know. AJ Guerin says Usyk couldn't carry Holyfield jockstrap at cruiserweight. Come on, AJ Guerin. Come on, man. This man unified. This man was, I believe, an Olympic gold medalist. This man has done a lot. Don't sleep on Usyk, my man. I know he hasn't reached the legendary status of Evander Holyfield. I know that. I had Evander Holyfield's Real Deal Boxing for the Sega Genesis. There's no way Usyk is there yet. But and I used to love Evander Holyfield's Burger King commercials. I think they were Burger King commercials. But that doesn't mean you can count Usyk out of there. Usyk is on the way. Usyk is on the way, and if he wins a heavyweight strap, then you got to put him right there with Evander Holyfield. At cruiserweight, he's there. Totally, as far as legacy goes, he's not there because Evander was a killer at heavyweight too. If Usyk can do what Evander did at heavyweight, you got to put him in there, my brother. Pound for pound boxing, 5'10" says, facts, George, 100, 100, 100. Glove. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. Really appreciate you. Ronsta says, AJ, least Usyk doesn't juice up to make weight. Oh, big accusations flying there. Somebody call Vada. Somebody call USADA. Somebody call WADA or the British Board of Boxing Control, whoever it is. Muay Thai 23 says, pound for pound boxing. Don't know nothing about boxing. Why are you hating, Muay Thai? Why are you hating, brother? AJ Guerin says, Holyfield didn't juice at cruiserweight. Well, I mean, how do you know that? We don't know that, right? But I would assume he didn't juice because, unless I have hard evidence, I don't like to say that a person juiced, because that's legacy tarnishing sort of talk. But, who knows? Suleiman says, Ronsta, everyone is on the juice, especially back then. Oh, man. Back then, I do believe. I mean, if right now so many people are on the juice, man, back then they were probably like guzzling like fucking horse semen and testosterone, or like, I don't know, gorilla ball milkshakes or something. I mean, who knows what the fuck those people were doing back then. It was crazy back then. In the Olympics, they were popping everybody left and right. So I'm sure in boxing, it was nuts. AJ says, maybe not at cruiserweight, but moved up to heavyweight. 100%. Might be right. Holyfield was like the most jacked guy. This fucking guy looked like a superhero, man. AJ Guerin says, you are right about that, Suleiman. Suleiman's accusing everybody of being on the juice back then. And you might be right about that. You might be right. Suleiman says, when Mike Tyson fans complain about Holyfield being juiced, bro. Damn. AJ Guerin says, remember the cruiserweight fight, Evander Holyfield and Dwight Muhammad Qawi? That was the best cruiserweight fight ever. That's amazing that you bring that up, AJ Guerin, because I remember watching an interview with Dwight Muhammad Qawi. We say Qawi, I guess, in English, but it's actually Qawi, which means powerful in Arabic. You're welcome. And I remember him saying that it didn't make sense to him that instead of getting tired, Holyfield was gaining energy, and that's why he felt that Holyfield cheated in that fight. So I saw that on a documentary somewhere. Mahalo Mikhail, what up, my brother? He says, woo, finally caught one again. Hello, coach. Hey, what's up, my brother? So unfortunately, I'm not a coach. I'm a promoter. I don't want to take the title of coach or have you guys misunderstand. But I appreciate the respect. And we are talking about Coach Manny Robles. And, if Al Haymon fired him or did Andy Ruiz fire him, whatever it is or whoever it was, it absolutely stinks. And we dislike it very much on this channel. And, if the channel is dedicated, which it is, among other things, to calling out corruption in combat sports, then we got to call out corruption in combat sports. And I think, I would argue that it is corruption. It is corruption of a person, of a relationship, and of the mind to fire a guy like Manny Robles, who made you the first ever Mexican heavyweight champion in the world, to fire him and use him as a scapegoat and use him to reflect some sort of, or project some sort of damage control. I just think it's absolutely deplorable, is what the politicians would say. It is deplorable, knuckleheads. I'm disgusted. Muay Thai 23 calling me coach now. Muay Thai 23 is still took a hard knee to the head today at practice at SBG. One of One of McGregor's sparring partners knocked Muay Thai out today with a spinning back kick to the it was to the shoulder, but Muay Thai didn't block it. It hit him in the temple and knocked him out. So don't mind him too much. Much love for you, Muay Thai. Ginger Giant says, Blue Collar is the worst, most annoying channel I have ever come across. I need a cup of coffee and a joint after watching his videos for 20 seconds. What's Blue Collar? I don't even know what that is. You know, the only reason that I know that all the boxing channels on YouTube are racist as hell is because the couple times I've tried going in there and expressing my opinion when I felt like somebody was being totally outrageous and pandering to like their ethnicity or race or whatever. You know, the only times I went in there and, you know, made a comment, I got booted. And not even because it was like a racial kind of comment or anything. I was just disagreeing. Like, they'll say like, oh, you know, Lomachenko's the worst fighter ever. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I'd get booted. So I was just like, you know what? These channels, like, there's nowhere for normal, like, fight fans to go and talk. And voila, that's why we created this channel, and I decided why not. We've already got the only kickboxing promotion in California. We might as well supplement it with a badass channel for people to come and discuss, you know, combat sports. So let's see what we got here. Ginger John Muay Thai. Muay Thai says, Coach, what do you think is the number one fight that needs to be made right now in any boxing weight division? Thank you, Muay Thai 23, for finally, like, you know, asking something that's worthwhile. You've always got a gem in the chamber, and it's just my job to coax it out of you, Muay Thai 23. The number one fight that needs to be made right now in any boxing weight division is Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. I would say that's the number one fight. And then all the fights at heavyweight need to be made. Fury Wilder 2, which hopefully goes through. Joshua Fury, Joshua Wilder, Dillian White needs to fight one of the champions. So those are the fights that I think need to be made in boxing right now. Muay Thai 23, tell me what you think, my brother. Ronsta said Hearn even offered to pay Usyk step-aside money now this week to fight the winner of Fury versus Wilder, because Hearn knows Usyk's a bigger risk than Ruiz, and Fury or Wilder a bigger payday. So Hearn offered to pay Usyk step-aside money right now to fight the winner of Fury versus Wilder. I don't get it. I don't get what you're saying. So are you saying that he was paying Usyk step-aside money so that Chisora can fight the winner, or so that Dillian White can fight the winner? I'm a little confused. Suleiman says, for what it's worth, Holyfield is nearly 60 and his body is still stone-like. I agree, the dude's a beast. Mahalo Mikkel with the donation, my man. Thank you so much for that. Support, guys. You had Money Mayweather right there counting the money. Thank you so much for that, Mahalo. On behalf of me and everybody at FightersRep, you know, the matchmaker, Jesse Brown, and Marco Martinez, and Vahan Bedelian, the camera guy, and Ivan Calderon, and everybody else that this whole team I've built, and all the fighters that are going to be competing for us. Thank you for your generosity. All that's just going to get reinvested right back in to making us the best. What I hope to be one day, please, is the best striking promotion in the world. You know, I want to give Glory a run for their money. I want to kick Glory's ass between the two of you, even though I love Glory. I love it, but I want to kick their ass. Muay Thai 23 says, I took a couple of head stomos when I was a baby, bro. I think funny. Pound for pound box at 510 says, I believe you, LOL. Ronsta says, true to that, Suleiman. Holyfield, hardcore champion. Darpa Hans says, I agree, fight God. Thank you, my brother. Hey, if you guys are here for the first time, hit that subscribe and bell notification icon. Mahalo Mikkel says, I got blocked on a boxing channel, forgot the name, when I argued that Tyson Fury statistically outboxed Wilder. I've observed an anti-English sentiment among American boxing channels. Own opinion. You know, Mihailo, and it's not just anti-English sentiment on these boxing channels. It's blatant racism. It's blatant racism and extreme nationalism and just weird shit, man. I mean, this is boxing. We're not, this is not a fucking rally. Like, this is not, it's not politics. It's not, sometimes there are politics in boxing. Sometimes these sort of socioeconomic situations do cross over into boxing. There has been racism in boxing, I'm sure, but you can't fight that sort of corruption by using the same means, by employing the same corruption that you're trying to fight. You don't clean the sport up. You don't make it a great sport. You don't make the viewers of the channel happy. I mean, how are you going to battle corruption by using the same sort of corruption? I mean, it's nonsensical. These people are just not mature adults. This is prison yard mentality. These are the lowest of the low, just trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to make money. Honestly, they're just trying to make money pandering to their base, the way politicians do, and that's not what we do here. Here we call out corruption. That's what we do here. Here we have integrity. Here we're building a sport to help young fighters. Here, we're building a channel for people to come and engage and have a good time and just show love and be friendly. I mean, what's wrong with that? It's the same effort. My uncle, God rest his soul, my uncle Kareem, his name was Kareem, and I grew up with him, man, and I miss him every day. And one of the things he told me, he died young. And one of the things he told me, my Uncle Kareem, who went through it, man, he grew up in Miami, grew up rough. I mean, he was born in the Arab world, moved to Venezuela as a young man, then came to Miami and just, got involved with the wrong crowds in Miami in those days was a tough place. And I grew up with him, and he told me it takes just as much effort to be good as it does to be bad, to be nice as it does to be mean. And I remember that. From when I was a child, him telling me that. And I remember something even more amazing that backed that up, something scientific that I read one time in some sort of scientific magazine. I forgot. I was always interested in that scientific stuff. And I remember reading one day that for a human being to smile, it takes less muscle. Less muscles are being used in the face for a human being to smile as it does for a human being to frown. And so, that's what we're doing here, man. We're just keeping it simple. Keep it simple, baby. Let me see here. Suleiman says, I got booted for saying I thought Porter beat Spence at Boxing Eagle. He kicked you out, bro. That's hilarious. Pound for pound. That's hilarious. But that's so ridiculous that he kicked you out for that. My goodness. Pound for pound boxing 510 says, yeah, Boxing Ego kicks everyone out. Well, at some point you run out of fans, I guess, if you kick everybody out. Mihailo Mikhail says, when I argued, so he was just correcting himself. It's okay. I mean, we understood you the first time, Mihailo. Suleiman says exactly. It's repeating the cycle, right? I mean, how are you gonna battle corruption with corruption? I love watching Jimmy Dore. He's one of my favorite political commentators, and he kind of does the same thing we do here. He calls out corruption. I discovered him recently. I'm really into him. He calls out corruption in boxing, though, and not in boxing, in politics. He calls out corruption in politics, and he always says, "How are you going to fight a corrupt system by?" Using it by, he always says this corporate money is going to these politicians and they're in bed with all these corporations. So how are you going to be a candidate and fight corruption if you're using the same corrupt money as these other politicians are doing, and he says that when he brings up, the other candidates that claim to be pure or whatever. But anyway, so that's my thoughts. Suleiman, okay, AJ Guerin says the best fight out there is Canelo Arthur at light heavyweight. I don't think so. I think that's a bad fight for Canelo. That'd be a fight that I really want to watch, but I don't think it's a fair fight because I do think Arthur is a legit, as we've all seen, a legit light heavyweight, and Canelo's not. Canelo's even small for middleweight. I don't know what the hell he was doing. Well, I knew what the hell he was doing going up to light heavyweight. He was just trying to beat up Kovalev and get an easy belt. But he's not by any means a natural light heavyweight. Jamaican says, God forbid having a difference in opinion on some of these YouTube channels. I agree, Jamaican, my brother. We keep it simple here, my brother. It says, you are right. They use the emotions of the people for monetary gains. That's exactly what they do. You should see how people donate to some of these channels, man. It's incredible. I hope at some point, and I do think at some point we'll get to that level. I would love to get that kind of contribution and donation for what we're doing here, which is just maintaining integrity and calling out the corruption, because by doing that you're helping out the fighters, you're helping out the sport, and that's what matters at the end of the day. Keeping the sport right, keeping the sport straight, and with those kind of contributions that those these racist dorks are getting, man, I could, the stuff that I could do with FightersRep, I already feel like I'm doing a ton. Wait till you guys see this next show, but with the kind of contributions that those dorks get, I could I'd be the next Dana White, man, which is the goal. The goal. Not exactly like Dana White, but successful like him. That's the goal. That's the goal. To get this thing to that level. So let's see here. Suleiman says best fight would be a handicap bout of Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia versus Lomachenko. I got my money on Loma. That's pretty funny. Mihailo Mikhail says sometimes these American box channels look like rap channels. Can't see the difference at times. Oh my God. Jamaican says, want to piss ego off. Tell him to take his darker glasses off and show his knock-knee eyeballs. Oh man. Ronsta says Fury may be a bit overrated now. Who has he really fought than Klitschko the last year? 2 fights against Otto and German bloke. Where's the credibility factor since he returned to boxing? Fury's the best promoter of himself, but he's full of crap. Well, I wouldn't say Fury's overrated. He took on 2 guys that were relative unknowns. Dangerous guy. Valeen proved to be a tough guy. Sometimes that's just going to happen. He's an undefeated guy. He was a big guy. And he could fight. He showed he could fight. And, Fury just picked this kid out of nowhere and just ended up with a fight on his hands. I wouldn't say Fury's overrated at all. I think skills-wise, Fury's still the best in the heavyweight division. I think the only guy that's close is technique-wise is probably Usyk. I would say then you would have to say, Anthony Joshua. These are the most skilled guys in the division. So, I wouldn't say he's overrated. Just because he had a tough fight against Otto Valeen. I think certain styles make for difficult fights, and I think Valeen's style, where he was sort of pressure fighting Tyson Fury, and able to use proper footwork, and keep up with Tyson as far as the movement went. I think that really helped him in that fight, and I think Valeen can beat a lot of the best heavyweights now. A lot of them. He might end up being a solid heavyweight contender, but we'll see. Suleiman says Jamaican LMFAO. I think those sunglasses are glued on at this point. I wear my sunglasses at night, head ass. Ginger Giant says, I swear to God, bro, I love people of all colors and races. I'm Irish and I run a hip hop channel, but I can't listen to these black run boxing channels on YouTube. The people that run and support them are clinically insane. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah. I mean, don't lump every channel though. I'm not lumping it. Yeah, let's not lump every channel. Some of these channels feel the way they do for a reason, perhaps. I don't, I don't know. I don't know. At the end of the day, I do think people are just pandering to their base, to make money. There's the Spanish channel, there's the black channel, there's whatever, But this channel is for everybody, and everybody's welcome. And I don't have a problem with anybody. I'm like Ginger Giant, man. I love everybody. The only thing that matters to me about like different cultures really is like I like the music, I like the food, I like to eat. So that's my thing. Eric Langariga said, "What up, my man? What's up?" He says, "What's up, boxing peeps? Who will be Andy Ruiz's new boxing coach?" Some people in here earlier were saying Teddy Atlas. That's interesting, man. Teddy Atlas. I don't think he'd do it. I don't think Teddy Atlas can deal with that bullshit, but we'll see. Mihailo Mikhail says, Ronsta, objectively speaking, he defeated the longest running champion like Klitschko, and he strategically outboxed Wilder. His weirdness is his mental warfare. Wilder at times fought emotionally. And yes, his opponents haven't been top notch recently. Well, I mean, he did what he had to do against Schwartz. He knocked him out quick. But I think Valine, he just pulled a tough fight in that one. Unexpectedly, he pulled what they call a banana skin almost, and the guy was a tough guy. But, he got the job done. I mean, he tried boxing. It wasn't working. It was sort of what happened to him when he fought Steve Cunningham. That's the style that bothers him. A guy that can keep up with him on the feet and has good footwork just like he does, and that'll box and put some pressure on him. That's what Steve Cunningham was doing. And that's the fight that's going to be most effective against Fury. But what does he do? He goes into Fury mode, which is, he turns it into a scrap. He just starts trying to beat your ass. So, I mean, you got to respect him for that. He tried boxing, and then he went to fighting. When he saw he wasn't getting the job done the way he wanted to, he began employing fighting. And so that's what he did. Ginger Giant says, they hate everyone from the UK, Europe, white people, and basically anyone that isn't black. It's fucking crazy, but I've learned to not even go near those channels. It's a shame that people would treat each other that way, if that's the sentiment you're getting from some of these channels, Ginger Giant. I did briefly enter a couple of these channels that you guys are talking about. I did feel the same sort of sentiment. I felt like it was extremely biased. I don't know. I'm just not into that. Everybody has their thing. Again, I think that's prison yard classless mentality. I got love for everybody. Suleiman says, Mihailo, Fury will always be a bitch for ducking the rematch clause. Also, Fury popped Fernandelo months before that fight. You might be right. AJ Guerin says, yes, you're right. Canelo can't beat Artur. Yeah, no, he needs to stay away from Artur. Big time. Big time. Suleiman says, Fury should have never been in the ring against Vlad after that dirty test. Imagine the outrage if AJ popped Fernandelo and blamed tainted boar meat. I remember that shit. He was blaming boar meat. That's pretty funny. And the whole Mexican meat thing really took off, but I feel like the boar meat thing never happened. I think we should bring boar meat back or make it a thing. Eric Langariga says Tyson Fury doesn't have amazing talent. I believe he is the best in the division. However, all his contemporaries are not what the heavyweight division the time of Mike Tyson, Holyfield, or earlier. Well, but at the same time, I mean, look at the physique of the current heavyweights, right? I think they would have done just fine at that time. I mean, you're talking about guys that are seemingly on average 6'5", 6'6". I mean, what do you even do with that? And we saw what happened when Tyson went in there against Lennox Lewis. Sure, he was a little bit, further along, but these giant super heavyweights that we've got now are a handful. I mean, what do you do when you're fighting a guy like Lennox Lewis, 6'6", or Deontay Wilder, who's that big and can knock you out with one punch, or Tyson Fury, 6'9", and can move like a middleweight, or these guys are problematic. Anthony Joshua is 6'5", Klitschko. I mean, these guys they're amazing in their own right. I think the reason we feel like the talent isn't as great as it was, because Klitschko kind of cleaned out the division for 10 years and really slowed it down. But now you're seeing this talent emerge. You're seeing these guys shine in the bright lights, and I wouldn't completely rule them out if you were to bring them to that era and allow them to compete. Israel Cisternas Rodriguez Miranda, thank you for joining, my brother. Hit the subscribe, the bell notification icon if you haven't already. He says, I think Fury will try to knock Wilder out this time. I like both fighters, by the way. I that's what he's saying, and I believe it. I believe he's going to try to finish him, because he did buzz him a few times in that last fight, and he could knock him out. I mean, when you're 6'9" and you weigh 260 pounds, you can knock anybody out. You can knock a horse out. So I can see it happening. If he just fights a different kind of fight where that's what he's looking for, it could happen. Suleiman says the era argument sucks and happens in every sport and is pointless. It is pointless, but just something to talk about when people get together and talk about sports. Bring back boar meat, hashtag. I love that hashtag, brother. Israel Cisternas Rodriguez Miranda says Rocky Marciano would beat all these heavyweights today. I don't know, Israel. He's like 5'10", man. What's he going to do against the 6'9" Tyson Fury? That's kind of tough, man. That's a tough sell for me. Knuckleheads, I've been on here over an hour. Time flies when you're having fun. I want to thank you guys for joining the chat. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it. I'm gonna try to have a sit down with Manny Robles. I'm gonna try to have a sit down with Manny Robles, see what he thinks about this split. I'm also gonna talk to Charles Martin, because he's training him. Apparently, he's gonna be fighting Gallo Negro, Gerald Washington, on that Fury Wilder 200 card. So we'll talk to them, see how that's going. And I want you guys to definitely follow me on Instagram at FightersRep. Twitter, because we hardly have any fans on Twitter. I'm not very active on there, so help me out on Twitter. But definitely Instagram, Facebook, and definitely here as well. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. If you go, especially the Instagram page and Twitter and Facebook, give us a follow. It's much appreciated. Let them know you're from Knucklehead Nation. Represent. Much love to you guys. Man, thank you guys for joining me. What can I say? Let me see here. Let me just read these last couple comments. Styles make fights. Frazier beat Ali. Foreman beat Frazier, and Ali beat Foreman and Frazier after that. Styles, my friends. You're right about that. Suleiman says the funny part is Canelo's tainted Mexican meat excuse is BS, and I don't believe it. Has so much more legs to stand on than Fury's excuse. Suleiman with the gloves. And Suleiman says you're on point. Thank you guys for joining the chat. Much love to you guys. It was a great time. I'm going to try to get as much great content for you guys on the channel as possible. But really, definitely tune in for Fighters Rep 9, or buy your tickets at FightersRep.com, and follow us on social media. I always forget to ask that. Also, subscribe to Chad George's podcast. I'm helping him with that. Just Google Savage Hour Podcast on YouTube and follow it, subscribe to it, just like you have this channel. He puts out a video every Wednesday. I'm helping him with that channel. I'm helping him try to build that as I try to build this one. Really great motivational stuff from a great guy, so definitely check that out. But anyway, guys, much love to you guys. You guys are awesome. Again, we're going to be back tomorrow after the fights, whatever fights are on tomorrow. I don't even remember anymore. We'll be back here. So we'll see you then. And until next time, help me keep it clean. Keep the sport clean. Have a good night, knuckleheads.